Hi guys, it's Johnny from T3TRA. I haven't made a video in a while because I've been working hard on my EP, which comes out shortly. But I've just picked up a new piece of gear which I want to do a short video on, which is Softube's Console 1. Firstly, I can apologise for the background noise. We're in the middle of a heat wave and I need the windows open because it's deadly in here, but a lot of noise is coming from outside, so we'll make do. Console 1 is a bit of a unique item really. It's part hardware, part software. It's a little bit like having a channel strip which you can put onto as many tracks as you like and then control using the hardware provided. The benefit of this is that it allows you to get a bit more hands-on, and in theory you can use your ears more than your eyes. I know I certainly in the past have maybe made moves while I was doing EQing for instance, and having looked at the screen, seen that I've maybe cut a bit of the fundamental frequency of something and then backed off what I was doing because I was trusting my eyes more than my ears, when in reality it probably sounded better when I just went with my instinct. So when you purchase Console 1 you get a physical hardware unit which is really well made, really impressive. It feels like a metal casing with silicone or rubber knobs which are really well made. The layout's really nice, it's really intuitive, and as soon as you start using it, it becomes very obvious how it works. Now I have a really stripped down session which is just some drums minus a lot of the spot mics, just to give you an impression of how it works. If you've seen my previous videos then you'll notice that I've moved on to Cubase rather than Ableton, and I'm going to do a whole video on why that is. I still use Ableton for writing, but for mixing I prefer Cubase now. So there's just some audio drum tracks, let's just hear how they sound as they are. Just for an idea of what we've got going on, we have a kick sub, which you go into a sum track, snare drum top, snare drum bottom, and a printed snare room sample, which are all going into a snare sum channel. 3 toms, a pair of stereo overheads, and a stereo pair of rooms. I've also got a send, which is parallel compression, which all the channels are going into. Let's add Console 1. What I'm going to do is on every channel add Console 1. Now you have to make sure you use the VST3 version on Cubase. You get this message. Now Cubase has a cool feature where if you use the VST3 version, it automatically names your tracks in Console 1 the same as they are in your DAW, which is a real time saving feature and it makes it a lot more easy to use. I'm just now going to put that onto all of our channels. And hopefully now, when I bring up the Console 1 interface, you can see now that I have all of the channels that I've sent to it displayed like this. You'll also see that the channel I had muted, the parallel compression, is muted here also, so it mirrors what the DAW is doing in Cubase, which is really helpful. So if I just use one of the tracks, kick for instance, I'm going to solo that. Just to show you what Console 1 can do. So the first thing is a gate and a transient shaper. As you can see, when I turn the dial on the unit, you can see the software corresponds to it. So I'm just going to dial in a gate very quickly. Not that there's any bleed on this. But that shows you what it can do. You also have a transient shaper, so you can improve or remove the sustain and the initial transient hit of each channel. Let's try that. So say for instance if I decided that the kick wasn't hitting hard enough, I might decide to maybe remove a little bit of sustain and increase the punch. Then we have EQ. So the EQ works like pretty much any other EQ that you've ever used, except that you can really get hands on as if it was a real unit. And the other benefit as well is if you just want to use your ears rather than your eyes, you can just turn this off. So for instance, if I want to get rid of a muddy frequency, let's just play the audio and look for it. Right there is a frequency I don't like, so I'll just cut it. And if we look back now, we'll see that there's a nice cut there. And you don't have to do it like that. You can have it display as you would normally. It's just a really refreshing way to mix. As you can see, you've got 4 bands. The 2 on either end you can change from a bell to a cut to a shelf, and they all work just like that. And then you have 2 mid cues, low and high mid. You can bypass all of these units very easily. So let's try EQing this kick. Reset some of this stuff. I forgot to mention that there's also a low and high cut which you can just access here. So let's just hear that bypassed and then re-engaged. Okay, next we have a compressor. Let's see how that sounds. What's quite cool is it has this parallel feature, so you can actually have it as parallel compression. And finally you have the drive feature, which is meant to emulate some of the distortion and saturation that you get on a hardware unit. So let's give that a try. It sounds like this character allows the saturation to be either brighter or darker depending on which way you go. And that's pretty much how it works. You can go through all of your tracks. And there's plenty more features as well, but that's the basic functionality. So I'm just going to go through and mess with some of the channels and just see if I can get it sounding a bit better than when we started. Okay, so that needs a ton more work done to it, but it sounds a whole lot different from when we started. Let's try and bring in the parallel compression, see how that sounds. Okay, so that's fun to use. There's a really horrible knocky frequency in the kick which I'd want to get rid of, but you have the entire rest of your door for that. In terms of getting to a nice starting point and just enjoying using the Console 1 software, it's a really great tool. I'm really pleased with it. It's £370, I believe, so it's not cheap, but it's not a complete kick in the wallet either, so check it out. In the future, I believe there's further expansions. There's already some different emulations that you can get. This is obviously an SSL version, but there's I think Chandler ones and other similar hardware consoles that are emulated. So there's expansion in the future as well. Hopefully that was useful. See if it might fit into your workflow. See what you think. Cheers.